What's up, guys? Welcome to Whiskey. I'm Jeff. This is a channel where I offer my thoughts and opinions on a specific whiskey, and if you stick around to the end, I'll be giving it a score as well. If that sounds interesting, hit subscribe down below, and with that out of the way, let's jump into our review. Today we're looking at the AnCnoc 18. Stick around. Okay, so we're looking at the AnCnoc 18 today. This one is a doozy. This is probably one of the most popular 18s just out there on the scene right now. It's huge with like bloggers and vloggers and whiskey tubers. It's even making a splash on the catwalks of Paris. Well, that was a very dumb joke. Not proud of that one at all. Didn't stop me from spending about 15 minutes on this masterpiece though. Anyway, it's not just the 18. The brand in general is just pretty popular right now. Stuff like the 12-year-old is one of the few 40% whiskeys that seems to be kind of embraced by the whiskey community. Something like the 24 is absolutely huge right now as well. I reviewed that recently. Really liked it. So AnCnoc is in a lot of people's good graces right now, mine included. I love them. I think they've got a beautiful, gentle, delicate, complex house style. And it's one of the few house styles that works very well either with a strong cask influence or without. It can go either way. As for our 18 here, you can tell by the color, which is a natural color by the way, that this one is not cask influenced. Double negative, bad grammar. But this one is quite heavily sherried. And I would argue it's more sherried than it used to be, which is something that I want to talk about later. For AnCnoc, what do we need to know? It's from the Knockdhu distillery. AnCnoc is ancient Gaelic for the sound you hear when someone's at the door. That's not true. This has been matured in both bourbon and sherry casks, and that's about all we know in terms of production. But yeah, again, this is a very popular whiskey right now, so is it as good as they say? Yeah, it is. It's fantastic. I mean, we don't know yet, and it's still a mystery, and you should stay tuned to find out. So let's not drag this out any longer. Let's jump into our review. In the meantime, if you'll kindly leave a like down below, that would be greatly appreciated. So this stuff comes in at a respectable 46% ABV. It's non-chill filtered, and as I mentioned earlier, we've got natural color. So I love the look of AnCnoc bottles. I've mentioned that before. I think they have this kind of modern minimalism that really works for me. It's clean, it's clear, it's simple, it's elegant. I like the little purple touches on the 18. I like the gold or like yellow that we've got on the 12. Great looking bottles. This gets 5 out of 5 for me. This does say non-chill filtered and natural color. We get some detailed tasting notes on the back. It tells us how to pronounce the brand's name, which is always appreciated. So good info, not too busy. All the essentials are covered. It would be nice to get a little bit extra production info, but I'm nitpicking. Everything we need is there. On the nose, we definitely get some sherry. There's raisins, there's plums, there's leather, there's honey, there's some sweet jammy fruits in here. There's some dried fruits in here. There's some juicy red delicious apples, that specific kind of apple. There's dates, there's marmalade, there's cinnamon, and there's white pepper here. It's a nice nose. On the palate and finish, our texture here is nothing special, although it is mouth coating. It's not quite as dark as the nose suggested. We start off with caramel, sultanas, raisins, vanilla, jammy fruits, charred oak, there's some cocoa, there's some hazelnut, medium finish lingering on caramel, cinnamon, and white pepper. Alright, so this is excellent stuff, and it seems to be quite different from how I remember it. I remember my last bottle being much less sherry driven than this one is, and for someone who's usually weary of too strong of a cask influence, I actually like this more. I think the issue I had with my last bottle of AnCnoc 18, even though I did enjoy it, is that it was a chameleon of a whiskey in the sense that it would hit differently on different nights. I'm not sure if many of you know what that's like, but yeah, it's just the type of whiskey where even though you enjoy it, you're not sure what to expect every time you come back to it in terms of just flavor and overall enjoyment. Like you might have some nights where it absolutely slaps, and then you'll have other nights where you come back to it and you're like, yeah, okay, that's pretty good. And while this does describe my last bottle of this does not describe this bottle of this. So I do find the newer batches of this stuff much more consistent. I like the sherry influence in here a lot. I think it's right where it needs to be. Like this is not a sherry bomb. It's definitely sherry forward. The sherry's in the spotlight, but it's not all cask. We do get the sophistication, the level of maturity that we want from an older whiskey. This does taste like an 18-year-old. I think if I could compare it to anything, I might compare it to the old version of Glenlivet 18, the one that was at 43%. That was such a beautiful whiskey. Sadly, no longer with us. May she rest in peace. Granted, they are different whiskeys. This is a craft whiskey. It's no added color. It's 46%, so it's a little bit stronger, and it does have a darker, heavier sherry touch to it. But for me, it does kind of scratch the same itch. One thing about this stuff that is kind of interesting that I noticed, I walked past an old dusty version of this stuff in a shop here in Taiwan a while back, and it was much lighter in color. And just because it's a whiskey that's gotten increasingly sherried over the years, and because it's a whiskey that's naturally colored, you can actually use the color to gauge which era, I guess you could say, of AnCnoc 18 you're buying. Now, I know a lot of you will want me to compare this one to the 24, which I reviewed recently and I thoroughly enjoyed. I think I gave it 90. This is not as good, which is totally understandable. This is not as old, it's not as expensive, but it is still excellent whiskey, and I think it's very competitive for an 18-year-old. For score, I'm going to land on 88 here. Now, I did actually want to go a little bit higher, but there's a couple of reasons why I stuck with the 88. One is that I do find myself wishing for a slightly more oily texture here, and two, this is a very friendly, straightforward, richly sherried, and delicious whiskey. I think I was hoping for more drama, more fireworks, more pop. It's by the numbers, but it's quality by the numbers. That said, those are very small complaints, very small gripes about what ultimately is an excellent whiskey. I think this is a must if you're an AnCnoc fan, if you like your 18-year-old whiskeys, if you like your sherried whiskeys. This is one to check out, and not to mention it's also very good bang for buck, which brings us to value. Before we hit on value though, I do want to give a quick thank you to all my channel members and my patrons. Guys, thank you so much for all the support. And if you want to help out, if you want to help keep the channel sustainable and financially independent, no. Financially independent and sustainable? No. Financially sustainable and independent. The point is, I'm trying to beg for your money, but apparently I forgot how to speak English. Patreon and PayPal are linked down below. Thank you for your support. Okay, so this is excellent value. I don't know what it costs in other markets, but here in my market, last year when I picked up this bottle, this was just over $100 US. And for something that's craft and 18 years old and this delicious, it's a great deal. Unfortunately though, it is getting harder and harder to find in my market. I'm not sure if that's true elsewhere, but I get the feeling like this price point might not stick around forever, and I would recommend that if you do like this one, or you do want this one rather, you should pick it up sooner and not later. But yeah, excellent stuff, great value. Alright, that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and if you want to help out, as I mentioned, I've got Patreon and PayPal down below, and also I want to hear from you. Have you tried the AnCnoc 18? How do you feel about it? How do you feel about the older versions versus the newer versions? How do you feel about this one versus the 24? What are your thoughts on AnCnoc in general? You can let me know all of that down below. Finally, down below, you can also let me know what you want to see me review down the line, and I'll keep it in mind for my upcoming videos. Bye, guys.